Hello, welcome to this walkthrough of samehorse. This was a previous midterm question, and it deals with variable lookup. So the rules for variable lookup are as follows. First of all, if you're within an if statement or like a else or an else if or a for or a while loop, something like that, you'll look for a particular variable inside that conditional first. If you cannot find that variable, then you go into the outside function, and then if the variable is not in the function, then you go into the instance and the class variables. So you look for the variables there. And if that does not exist, then we look into the superclass. We haven't really talked about superclasses yet, so don't worry too much about that. For purposes of samehorse, we will be just looking at the very local if conditional, the function, and also instance and class variables. Alright, cool. So let's talk a little bit about our problem. So our horse class has two variables, a horse, and the variable name is called Sing, and a string. The variable name is called Jimmy. And whenever you create a horse, you have to pass in a string, and then the string Jimmy is then set to the value of the input string. Alright, and same is set to null because it does not have an explicit value yet. Alright, so let's run through the main method because that is what is called whenever a class is run. So our first line gives us horse is equal to a horse object. And each horse object has the variable called sing. Oops. And in this case, it's going to be null. What do we do? Oops. Okay. We do null. I'll just denote that by empty brace, and its string called Jimmy. Okay, why are you doing this? Jimmy is going to be pointing to you think. Alright, cool. And then we go on to the second line where we create a cult variable. It's of type horse, and it's also pointing to horse. And once again, it also has the same variable, which is initialized to null, and a Jimmy variable, which is set to horse. Fabulous. Cool. Now we say cult.same is equal to cult, right? So what is cult? Cult is this, and we follow the pointer to its same method, or not the same method, the same variable, and we set it equal to itself. So this is what a horse coroner looks like for cult. Alright, now we get into the interesting part of this function, or of this problem, where it says cult is equal to cult.same of horse. So let's draw an environment diagram for that. So I will call function and same because that is the function being called. And it has an input called horse. And what is the input to this function? It is horse. So we're in this function, the public static void main function. So we look up the variable horse within this function, since there's no conditional loop that we're currently in. We look for the variable horse within this function, and we get this value right here. Right. So we copy the pointer over. So that is what horse represents, or horse is pointing to. And then we also have to have a this method, or a this object. Because if you notice here, this is an instances object. So whenever you use an instance and call a method from that instance, then you always have access to that instance's variables. Alright, cool. So now this should point to whatever quote is pointing to, because that's what's calling the same method. Right. So now we're going to go into the same method right here, and we'll see the first thing that pops up is same, right? And I said the order in which we check for variables is the conditional block. In this case, same is not in the conditional block because we're still in the first line of it. Then we check the function, and there are currently no variables named same. And then we check the classes or the instances variables. So in this case, the instance is this, and it does have a variable named same. And is same equal to null? No, right? Because we decided right here that it points to itself. Right? So it points to itself, so therefore it's not null. So we go into this conditional loop. And to signify that, I will write out if statement. Right, so this is where we are. And now we create a value or a variable called same. It's a type horse, and we'll be setting it equal to horse. So once again, we look in our current scope, which is the if statement. Is there a horse variable? No. Right? So then we have to look into the general current function, which is same. And is there a horse variable? Indeed there is, which is this horse right here. Right? There's this horse. And so same points to that. So let's do that and point it over here. Perfect. Now we say same dot same is equal to horse. So once again, we know what horse is. It's still the horse that's circled by the blue or the aquamarine. And we say same dot same. So this is same dot same is this value right here. And it's equal to horse. So we set it equal to itself. And then we say same is equal to horse dot same. Once again, we check the current scope, which is within our if statement, and we have a variable called same. So we set same is equal to horse dot same. Horse is still the blue, the horse circled by the aquamarine color. So we follow that same pointer to wherever it is, which is itself. So we should not change whatever same is pointing to. It's still pointing to the same object. Alright, cool. Now that we've completed this if statement, we can just cross this out. All the variables that were initialized within this conditional are now gone. So when we say return same dot same, we are in here once again. We are, okay, let me change color. We are in here once again. And now what we want to do is we want to return same dot same. So once again, we look within our function. There's no same method, or there's no same variable. So we have to look into the instance variables. So this dot same, or this has an instance variable called same. So we will be returning same dot same. In this case, sorry, this is the same. So this is what this points to, right? And same dot same is just itself. So col is equal to whatever this col is equal to. Let me see. Let's do orange. Col is equal to this entire object. which is originally what it was pointing to, so we don't actually do anything. Now, what we want to do is we want to print out colt.jimmy. So let's see, what is colt? Colt is right here. It's pointing to the orange thing, so we want to print out the Jimmy, whatever Jimmy points to, which is horse. So when we say print out colt.jimmy, we print out horse. And then we want to print out horse.jimmy. Well, what is horse? It's this, and it points to the aquamarine horse, right? So we want to print out the Jimmy variable from that horse, and that is you've been, which is the correct answer. So what this question is really testing is it's testing your understanding of how variable lookup works, and the part where it tries to trick you is within this if conditional right here, where it creates a variable with a confusing name, and then once you exit the if statement, that variable doesn't exist anymore, so you have to default to the object's instance variables that are called same.